Hello. Hi. How is everyone doing this Sunday morning? Hello, Nappy Susie. Thank you for being Inner Circle member. Precious Beauty. Hello, good morning. Good morning. How's everyone doing this morning? Hopefully everyone is having a wonderful weekend. Good morning. Pretty Obsession 27. Hi, Sal 323229. Good morning. Hello, dear Anna. Hello. How is everyone doing this morning? All right, so hopefully everyone saw the title. This is an activity that I literally created for my Inner Circle members. Inner Circle members, you will see this activity post tomorrow. But for some reason, when I was creating activity for my Inner Circle member, because I create practices and exercises for them and journal prompts all the time, something said, you need to give this to the entire community. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I'm kind of tired. I didn't really want to do anything this Sunday. But something, like y'all know how it is. When that pull comes for me, I have to either get it out or I cannot rest. So let's talk about it. First of all, this is how the activity goes. The agreement that I have with myself is more important than any agreement with anyone else. In the activity that's coming up for the Inner Circle members tomorrow, there are 2 rules to creating agreements for self. 1, you are not allowed to create an agreement that depends on someone else. 2, all agreements are only things that you can control. When a woman has not created these agreements with herself, you will hear certain things that come out her mouth. And then you realize that she's willing to sacrifice the agreement that she has for herself for someone else's. And when you allow the agreement from someone else to supersede your agreement, you will be unhappy. Why is this? Because if you want to think of agreement along the lines as your values, then yes, you will be unhappy when you compromise them, when you allow them to be superseded by someone else. And let's talk about what that looks like, because women do it every single day on this app, and you don't understand that you are sacrificing the agreement that you have with self. And that is the most important agreement that you're ever going to have in this life. If you're walking around sacrificing your agreement that you have with you will never trust yourself. You will always look at yourself as though you're untrustworthy. This is the reason why when I talk about tapping into that blueprint, tapping into the inner self, tapping into self overall, you can't imagine it. Because when you sacrifice too many agreements, the things that make you you, and you do that to appease someone else, you lose a little bit of yourself every single time that you do it. And this is something I feel like that this is something your parents are supposed to teach you. But hey, I'm going to teach you because I guess I'm the one you got right now. Your agreements should be created across all things in life that matter to you. Your agreement, you should have agreement with your relationships, with money, with lifestyle, with friendships, across everything that matters to you. So let's talk about how women sacrifice their agreements and they allow someone else's agreement to supersede their own. Let's say I have a woman and she's like, oh, Braille, and I've run across this multiple times. Oh, Braille, I can't get married. Why not? Because my boyfriend doesn't want to get married. Oh, but then do you want to get married? Yes. Do you value marriage? Yes. Okay. So why are you sacrificing the agreement that you have with self in order to appease someone else? Anytime you do that, you're leading to your own downfall. Anytime you allow someone else's agreement to supersede your own, you will be unhappy. And that's facts. So I want you to think along the lines. If you want to say standards, say standards. If you want to say value, say value. Which one means more to you? That's the key. Which one means more to you? Is it standards or is it values? Which one means more to you? That is what you need to look at your agreement as. And let's see, I have another one that I come across every single time. I probably once or twice a day. A woman who says, well, I cannot be feminine unless I have a man. All right. Is being feminine important to you? Is it an agreement that you have with self that you will live this life as a feminine woman? Or are you willing to sacrifice it or appease another person and allow them to supersede your agreement? And let's get down to the nitty-gritty of what this is. When you have an agreement with self, I'm going to live my life in integrity. I'm going to live my life in honesty. I'm going to value family. I'm going to be a feminine woman. I'm going to have a great lifestyle. I'm going to have happy children. And then you meet a man and he has none of these agreements with self. And he doesn't value family. He doesn't want to have a great lifestyle. He wants to be a bum. And you're like, oh, I love him. But then this means you are allowing his agreements to supersede yours. You're allowing what he wants for himself to supersede what you desire for self. And I guarantee you, you will be unhappy. You will be unhappy. There is the first agreements that I have with myself, I never allow someone else to supersede the agreements that I have with myself. Because my agreements are a part of me. They're at the core of who I am as a woman. So if I am a woman who values family, why would I get with a man who doesn't? Because this means if I do that, I'm throwing my agreements away and say, hey, I'm going to accept the agreement that you have for yourself and I'm taking on as my own. This means I may be unhappy and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So the agreement that I have with myself, I would never allow another person's agreement that they have with themselves to supersede mine. And this has led to me being happy. Not just this fake not just this I'm going to pretend. This is authentically happiness because I created agreements for myself for every area of life, for every area of my life. And these agreements, I stand on. These are my values. These are my principles. These are my foundation. So when I meet a man and he's like, oh, I don't care about family. Bye. Because I'm not going to allow your agreement to supersede mine. Do y'all realize that when you do that every single time, you will be unhappy? Because you're going to suffer. Thank you, Nappy Susie. Because that's what it is. You're going to suffer. Because you're literally allowing someone else's agreement with themselves to supersede the things that you want for you. The agreement that I have with myself is more important than any agreement that I have with anybody else. So this means if I have a cool friend that I like and this person just doesn't get it, they don't they can't deal with my lifestyle, or they don't like the way I live, and they always trying to bring me down about the way I want to live. They're trying to talk me out of it. Like, I'm going to go back to the agreements that I created with myself. And then if they are not lining up, I don't allow their agreements to supersede what I want. You will lead to suffering and all kinds of symptoms when you do this. And women are doing this all over the world because we are feminine energy beings. And we tend to want to nurture and take care of the people that we love. But when we do this, we have to learn that the agreements that we have with ourselves, we should never allow anyone else to supersede that. So hope we all on the same board. Everybody, we on the same page. We on the same page. Because this is important. Never allow that the agreements that you create for yourself across all areas of life to be superseded by someone else's agreement. Just because this person doesn't believe in masculine and feminine energy and they believe in 50-50, why would you sacrifice what you agree with? The things that you stand for, your principle, the foundation that is you. Why would you go and, like most women would try it because they're in love. But then when you do that, you're superseding the agreements that you have for self. And this leads to mistrust. This leads to you not trusting yourself. This reason why you don't trust your intuition. You don't trust yourself to make those hard-hitting decisions. Because all through your life, you've made agreements with yourself. You've decided, hey, I'm going to be this type of woman who lives this type of lifestyle. You reneged. I'm going to be this woman that's going to take care of myself. You reneged. I'm going to be this woman who's going to be real and who's going to be a great friend. You reneged. I'm going to be this woman who's going to save a lot of money and going to be very wealthy. You reneged. And so all of the agreements that you create with yourself, you renege on it, it will lead to mistrust in self. And it will be harder for you to ever tap into your own natural intuition. The intuition that you were born with, that is a God-given gift. And if you don't activate it and cultivate and utilize it, it's like one of those things that if you don't use it, you lose it. But then if you continue to renege on your agreements with self, why would you trust anything that's coming from your inner self? Because you won't. That's not the way this works. All right, so let me see what everybody is saying in the comments. Agreement standards. Agreements means more. Values means more. Okay, and you need to, since it's a personal decision to which one means more to you. And so you need to create your agreements either a standard or a value, because they have to mean something to you. As long as you allow people to come in your presence into your world, because they're coming in your world and they're saying, hey, I need you to accept this. This is what I need you to accept. And then you can look at your agreements. If it's not lining up, sis, why are you accepting the agreement? Why are you going along? Because when it comes down to it, love is not enough. If you are in a relationship currently and you feel like your agreements have been reneged on, you will feel mistrust with self and you will not be happy overall. And that's the gist of everything. Completely. Okay, let me go back here. I want to see what she said, because this is a good comment. Completely right. I've been doing it for decades. It left me so unhappy. I suffer from depression now. I'm learning to put myself first, no matter how little the agreement is. And I start to find joy, peace, and respect for myself. Yes, I love that. I need to hear this today. Yes, so true. Just what I need to hear. Yes, that means that the pull that I had to come and talk about it, someone needed it. And so here, I'm your daily reminder. The agreement that you have for yourself currently, the one that you created for yourself in all areas of life, it is not allowed to be messed with. You cannot renege on your agreements to self and put it to a side because you want that other person. It's not allowed. Yes, it may seem like, oh, we're connected in all these areas, but if they are violating an agreement is not compromisable. You don't compromise with agreements. You don't say, well, oh, I can change this. It's just like changing your values, changing your religion, changing your race. You can't do any of these things. So you should hold your agreements to some sort of standard. That's like Chanel lowering their prices because they think never get another client. LOL is silly. Chanel knows its worth. It's not a desperate company. Absolutely. And you shouldn't be either. So the activity in a circle, I was like, oh, create agreements all through. Like from relationships to lifestyle to friendships to career to money. Create agreements for every area of life that's important to you so that you can have that agreement that you can stand on. Because remember, our agreement, we don't allow our agreements to be superseded by someone else's. Every time that you allow someone to come into your world, because everybody has, if you can imagine, everybody's walking around in their own world. Everybody has their own little bubble, their own little life. And when you let someone come into your life and you have an agreement with yourself and you allow them to violate that, then you will you're actually teaching yourself to mistrust you. And you won't trust your intuition. You won't trust your decision making. You won't trust you. And then you'll be unhappy in that dynamic. Because when you decide to violate the agreements that you have for you, and you take on other people's agreements and they don't fit well, you will go through life feeling as though something is missing. So the agreement that I have with myself is more important than any agreement that I have with anyone else. So if I have, for honesty, when it comes down to me, I'm very family oriented. If you've been here a long time, you already know this about me. I'm not going to bring people into my world who aren't the same. This means they have to be similar. This means they have to have that same fire in their gut about family. They have to have that same fire in their gut about, making sure that they're bringing in their own world. So that is one of my agreements. But you have to create your own. And it's important that you create your own. Because going through this world without any agreements for self, without any value standards for self, you will find yourself in some sorry predicaments. Self-love is missing. Absolutely. A lot of times what I have found is a lot of women, they'll fall in love. Love is the trigger for them to actually decide to allow someone else to supersede their agreements. Here comes a man, right? And he doesn't want to be married. He wants to see how it goes. He just wants to see how it, go with the flow type of energy in this relationship. And a woman would decide, well, on my agreement, I want to be married. It means a lot to me. It's a value. I believe that I should be married and then have children. But then we meet this guy. And his agreement says something else. His agreement is like, let's go with the flow. Let's see how it goes. And a piece of paper doesn't mean anything. Okay. So he comes in your world and you like him, you love him, you want to be with him. So you set aside your agreement for his. But then you're unhappy because you want to get married. You want to do it the right way for you. The right way for you is to get married, two-parent home, children after the marriage. But you decide to fold because of this man's agreement. See, the trick is in a life that's happy, healthy, is to stop sacrificing your agreements. Stop allowing people to come in here and negotiate your agreements that you have with self. The more that you do that, you lose a little bit of yourself every single time. I've not met a woman who said, hey, I just want to go with the flow. Most women don't want to go with the flow. Let's go ahead and be honest, because this is me and you, right? We right here. Most women don't even want to be a man's girlfriend. If it was already set up and society said, hey, this is how we're supposed to date. You're supposed to court and then get married. All women would be on board. Majority of women do not want to be a man's girlfriend. But what do? We sacrifice the agreement with self in order to have the man or have the guy because we're in love. And see, when you sacrifice your agreement and take on his, you will be unhappy. Now, of course, there may be a small amount of women who are like, oh, I want to actually be his girlfriend, because a lot of times this goes with the disconnection of feminine energy, that they really have to rely on what they see and instead of what they don't see. So they like those steps, the processes of dating. They love going through all of the levels of dating. I think that's a minor amount of women that like that though. When I come in contact with women and I talk to women all, daily, majority of women would prefer to court and get married. That's it. They don't want to go through the process of dating. They want to court and get married. But because we have taken on society's agreement, and these are society's rules, we've taken on the changing of society and put that in our agreement that you have to be someone's girlfriend, that you have to date them for 2 to 5 years before you get the ring, that you got to prove yourself to be a good wife before you can figure out if you're going to be a good wife. All of these things are in your agreement. And you know how I know? Because a lot of you are living that way. When it's in your agreement, you're going to live that way. And a lot of times it's an unconscious agreement that you have. And sometimes it was created because of the way society moves. Now, I'm making you aware of it because I think we have to start breaking out of what society thinks is right, because we've already been shown the blueprint of that. History tells us that courting, marriage, that is more successful than dating for like 2 to 5 years and skipping courting and then getting married. It's already shown us by the numbers that it's not right, because what happens, even once you do all that, you end up getting divorced. And then what's the other one that society has taken on, that a lot of women has taken on in their agreement? Living with a man. Here's another one. Most women don't want to live with a man unless he's her husband. Like I said, it's a rare amount of women who are saying, hey, I want to live with him for about 10 years. That's rare. Majority of women do not want to live with a man before marriage. Like, this is still in us because this is the way we've done it for forever. If you would look back in history, we never lived with the man. There is no such thing as boyfriend and girlfriend. Those titles do not exist in history. These are all new. You're part of an experiment. And when you take these things a part of your agreement, you realize they don't even feel good. They don't feel good because they're not original. They're not something that we have, they're not something that is basically something we've been conditioned with, to actually accept boyfriend and girlfriend, live with a man. Even when you do it, and you go against the agreement that you have with yourself, you feel like something's wrong. Because you know. Because there's enough DNA information, genetic information within us that lets us know what we're supposed to be doing. This is the reason why I talk so much about tapping in with self. Because if you tap in self and create your agreements, you will avoid creating agreements that are based off society. If you do things by the way of society, you will find that you're going to be hurt more. You're going to lose yourself along the way. You're going to feel disconnected with yourself. You're going to feel like you're stuck in the matrix. You're going to experience a range of emotions when you decide to renege on your agreement. When you just decide to renege on your agreement and you decide to take on other people's agreements or society's agreement, it's not going to sit right with you. It's not going to sit right with you. Let me fix this right quick. Even if it goes against what we project for our life. Yes, true. He dated me 3 years before marrying me. Nope, can't live with me, baby. Absolutely. Never thought about it as taking on someone else's agreement at a sacrifice of mine. We're always taught to be accommodating and adjust instead of holding to our standards and agreement. And I want you to think about it, because when I come across women who I can't heal until I get an apology. Do you know that means your healing is dependent on someone else? So if you are in agreement that you want to heal and grow past whatever happened to you, this means you can't, because you're stuck because you're waiting on someone to say, I'm sorry. See, this is the reason why agreements can't be dependent on someone else. You need to create agreements that you can control. So you want to create something that's going to be dependent on what someone's actions is or what someone else does. You won't sit here and stay with a boyfriend who says that we're going to see how it goes. Even though in your agreement, you are a wife, you agree in marriage, you want to have the traditional setup. So why are you dating men who don't? When you honor the agreement that you have with yourself, you will not sacrifice or negotiate that. And I can tell you that as long as I have been keeping the agreement with myself, I am happier. And it's not the fake happiness that we do when we put on a smile just to get through, or we pretend that everything's going well. I have a deep down core of happiness that is just all over me at all times. It's not dependent on what's going on in my physical world. It's dependent on what's going on in my inner world. And see, that is the type of happiness that most women should strive to have. But when we go through life being us, okay, and it's natural. I don't want you to think it's not natural. It is. It is. This takes some training. We have to actually install this for ourselves. Because when it comes to women, we want to nurture, we want to love. The people that we love, we want to give the best of us to all of us. But we have to realize when things start going against agreements that we have with ourselves, we're not only sacrificing ourselves, we're sacrificing our happiness and trust within self. This is the reason why you see so many women who don't trust themselves. They literally cannot. It's hard for them to make decisions because they don't trust themselves. Because the longer that you have sacrificed to and compromise to be in a relationship with someone who you gave everything away for, you're going to come out it not trusting and not having that true connection with intuition. Because you've reneged. It's just like growing up saying, hey, I'm gonna be a wife. I'm gonna be a stay-at-home mother. I'm gonna have 4 kids. I'm gonna be feminine. And you do all of the opposite. And the only reason you did the opposite is because of the fact that you love someone else more than you love keeping the agreement to self. And when you do that, this is a sacrificing, which is not normal for feminine energy. We don't know anything about that. It's not normal for us. We may compromise, we may blend, but sacrifice, sis, let me tell you this. Sacrifice is not something that feminine energy do naturally. And sacrifice is something that the world has taught you that you should do, or your life has taught you that you should do. But it's not natural to feminine energy. We know how to be flexible. We know how to bend. We know how to compromise. But baby, we don't know how to sacrifice. And there's a difference. There is a difference. When we compromise, and I think my compromise is different than what majority of women look at. When I compromise, I'm not thinking about losing. I'm thinking about winning. If anyone's been with me, you know I call it a compliment. I think about when I'm compromising with my husband on little things. I'm not talking about my agreements now. When I'm talking about compromise, maybe on where we're going to go out to eat, right? If I'm compromising on where I want to go out to eat, it's a compliment. Because what we're doing, we're complimenting each other. We're both coming and we say, okay, how do we both win? We don't look at it as though we're losing. I think that's a horrible mindset to have in a marriage. And as long as you're in that marriage and you feel like you're always compromising, you feel like you're losing, I'm quite sure you've already reneged on your agreement somewhere along the line. That's the reason why you feel like you're losing. I mean, I'm just going to be real with you. I don't know any way else, and to be really honest with you. But when it comes down to it, the more that you renege on yourself, the more that you're not honest to yourself, the more that you take on other people's agreements, the more that you allow other people to negotiate or tell you what you need in your life, the more unhappy you will be. Because when it comes down to it, we don't know how to sacrifice. And it's interesting that I see that social media is trying to teach us how to sacrifice. Men are trying to teach us how to sacrifice, which means they're out of pocket, because they should understand that feminine energy doesn't sacrifice. It's no such thing. Our agreement small too. Like if you agree with yourself to not go on coffee dates, but you go on coffee dates, that's going to be along the lines of relationships. Like, you have to set that agreement with yourself. This means you don't accept anybody who wants to go on coffee dates. There's nothing wrong with creating that agreement. That agreement, though, there's only 2 rules to agreements. I only have 2. Okay. And you can add your own. I give you the training not so you can be like me. I give you the training so you can actually add on and expand yourself as a woman. So if you feel like you need another rule, create one. But I only have 2 rules. 1, my agreement cannot depend on someone else. Okay. 2, I cannot, all of my agreements have to be something I can control. And that's the rules of agreements. And you create them in all areas of your life. You want to create them in relationships. You want to create them in lifestyle. You want to create them in money. You want to create them in marriage. Create your agreements. And these are like your foundation. These are your principles. These are things you stand on. Because you want to make sure that you don't negotiate them. You don't let someone supersede them. Because when you do that, it will lead to unhappiness. And then not only that, the kicker for me is not just unhappiness. It is more than that. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. You know what else happens? When you negate or renege on your own agreement, not only are you unhappy, you just don't trust yourself then. Because it's like, okay, how could I make that decision? I know better. I'm better than this. But you created the agreements, but you reneged. And so every decision you make, therefore, moving forward, you're going to feel like, oh, I might need someone to help me make this decision, or I need someone else's opinion, because you went so long throughout your life reneging and compromising and, allowing other people's agreements to supersede yours that now you don't trust yourself. And that's where that comes from. The more that you walk through life and you allow other people to put into you and pour into you, and you just accept what they have for you, and you put it on, and it's not authentic, you're going to be unhappy. Then you're going to have a problem with making decisions. And this is what I see among a lot of women, because they have reneged their entire lives. And then hear little old me come along, and I say, hey, stop reneging. Stop compromising. That's not the way it's done. Repeat the second rule. Okay, sure. I have 2 rules to agreement. Number 1, make sure no agreement is dependent on someone else. This means you are not allowed to say, I can't do something until this person does this. You're not allowed to say, oh, I can't get married until my boyfriend wants to get married. Oh, I can't be feminine until I have a masculine man. Oh, I can't heal until someone apologizes. So you can't create an agreement based on someone else. Number 2, all agreements are something that you can control. All agreements are only things that you can control. So you can't go out here and create agreements saying, oh my gosh, every day gonna be sunny. Like y'all, you can't go out here making agreements like that, because then you're really gonna renege, because guess what? the agreements are out of your control. Or you sit here making agreements like, oh, my husband gonna be treating me a certain amount of way in 4 days or 4 months or whatever. Baby, that's out of your control. And that's dependent on someone else. That's 2 violations of agreements. 2 violations of agreements. So if you keep those 2 rules for making your agreements, you will never, and if you hold on to them, when you are out here in the dating market, when you're out here being courted, and this person, y'all are going through everything, you're vetting, you're doing what I tell you to do, right? You know, like you're following the rules that I give you, right? You're using the information I give you because I give you so much information. And he says something, and as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh my gosh, that's going to violate an agreement. You already know that man ain't for you. I don't care how good he look. I don't care how much money he has. I don't care how you feel around him. If this man is showing up and he is rich, but he doesn't want to get married, but you want marriage. If this man is showing up and he is unhealed, but healing is important to you, healthy is important to you, then you reject this man. Because if you don't reject him, you're going to be taking on his agreement. You're going to be taking on his agreement. And then you're only signing off for your own unhappiness. Because when you, and I talked about this in my, y'all know my whole series that I did. I feel like this series, I'm trying to figure out what else can I talk about that's going to top that series, because I love that series. I had so much fun talking to you all about that series. But one of the things that came up with that series, and I lost my train of thought looking at this. Agree, I completely lost trust through compromising a 7-year marriage, healed and building that trust. Absolutely. Because it wasn't supposed to be this way. There's so much, let me tell you this, and this is what I don't like. This is what I don't like. When it comes to marriage, we don't talk to the women who are married and happy. We talk to the women who aren't. And since we talk to women who aren't, we get bad advice to a certain degree. When on social media, all you hear is about compromising. And maybe there are some women who are married who give bad advice also. I've seen that too. I've seen it also. But you know how my number one rule is it's none of my business. That's another way how you stay healthy, happy, and you age like wine. You mind your business. So I mind my business. But yeah, there's a lot of bad advice out there. When I hear people telling you to compromise this and compromise that, you're gonna feel like you are reneging on your agreement to self. When you constantly go through your marriage and you're always compromising or giving something up and you're not getting anything in return for it, you're going to feel like you reneged and you're lying to yourself. And see, I swear to gosh, there's something about feminine energy lying to himself that does it for me. Like when you spend your entire life lying to yourself, you're leading up to unhappiness, discontent, and you're going to open yourself up to other things. Because there is a price to pay when you're out of alignment. There's a price to pay for that. When you are deciding to renege and take on other people's agreements and do other things to make other people happy, there is a price for that, and a woman will pay it. And someone will pay it and suffer in silence, and someone will suffer in loud. You know what I mean? Loud. They're not going to be quiet about it. They will not go quietly into the night. And if you know where that saying comes from, quietly into the night. But the agreement that I have with myself is more important than any agreement that I have with someone else. So if my husband was to come down and say, hey, I don't want a traditional marriage anymore. I really prefer 50-50. Like the agreement with myself is I have an agreement with the type of marriage I want for self. The one that I know instinctively overall will make me happy. So I cannot sign up for that. Even if it is like 22, 23, 24, it doesn't matter how many years I have or how much skin in the game that I have. When I have an agreement, I will not allow someone else's agreement to supersede the one I have with myself. Because I have to be honest with myself. Even though I love them, I love me more. I love me more. I'm going to say the things that no one else is going to say. I love me more. So this is the reason why I honor the agreements that I have with myself. When you love someone else more than you love yourself, you will always negotiate your agreement. You will always compromise your agreement, or you will always take on their agreement for yourself. And since I love me more, what has made me the most happiest in this world is to always honor the agreements that I have with myself. That is what has made me the happiest. And I'm saying the thing you shouldn't say. Like, I'm saying the things that they tell you not to say. This is the reason why I think to a certain degree I am looked at as though I'm selfish, but I honor the agreements with myself, and so I'm happy. I have a different level of happiness. My happiness is internal. It's not based off of the external factors. It's based off what's going on here in my heart and in my heart, my brain, my soul, my spirit, my energy. But when you, and I feel like it's not selfish to love yourself more. You're supposed to. You're supposed to. Usually two people who love themselves more actually make a good, healthy, happy relationship. When two people love themselves more, they make a good relationship. Because we're not going in as though you have to lose something in order for me to win. You have to sacrifice something in order for me to feel seen or validated. We're coming both to the table saying, hey, let's be a complement of each other. Let's figure out how we can make both each other happy. Let's see how we can actually we can rock this marriage. Let's see how we can just live in love and light and happiness. Let's see how we can make sure that you don't lose and I don't lose. We both win. Like, when you have that type of mentality and mindset, this is coming from two people who love themselves more. The idea of social media is that you have to love someone else more in order to truly love them. It's not true. It's not correct. Yes, I love me more. Yes, speak. But the agreement that I have with myself is more important than any agreement that I have with anyone else. What does this mean for other people? It means if you come with your agreement and it is not something that fits with my agreement, I am going to let you go with love and light. I am not going to try to force my agreement onto you. So if I value marriage, it is not my job to prove to you that marriage is worthwhile. If I value being a feminine energy being, I'm going to position myself so that I can be that. But I'm not going to force you to accept that if that's not something that interests you or you're not attracted to it. So these are my agreements. You do not look around at other people's agreements and figure out how to negotiate yours to be in alignment. What you do is you hold on to your agreement, because holding on to you, the love of your life is yourself. Okay? The love of your life is yourself. Holding on to you, which is all love. You and handling and standing on your agreements, the things that you have agreed that is going to be your thing for your all areas of life. It's not your job to go out here and persuade someone that you're the best choice. It's not your job to go out here to make someone love you. It's not your job to go out here and change minds and hearts, y'all. Stop with being an attorney. You're not one. Unless that's your profession, kudos to you. Unless that's your profession, it's not your job to go out here and try to change the world and tell them that they must fit this. What your job is to dig deep and to becoming a woman that you always wanted to be. Become the best version of yourself. Sit down and write down the things that your agreements. Sit down and write down what you agree in all areas of life that are important to you, and stand on it. That is your job. And as you're out here in this world, living your life, having fun, lifestyle dating, you will find that you are going to attract a man who has similar agreements. And there is no confusion. There is no negotiation. There is no, we have to make it fit or make it work. It's a lot of flow and ease in these type of relationships. But they're rare. They're rare because the majority of people, a majority of men are letting women be flexible and adapt, because they know we instinctively know how to do this. Remember, I talked about this in what video I talk about this? I think it was in, my feminine energy. I've been talking about the fact how women are flexible and they adapt easily. And see, that's a part of you. See, own that part of you. Don't get rid of it. I think it's a great part, especially you can be flexible and adapt to certain things. Certain things are not like major things, like where you're going out to eat. What type of furniture to buy. These are not major things. So you can be flexible and adapt. No problem. But when it comes to who you are overall, it comes to the core of you as a woman. You do not sacrifice that, and you do not adapt it. You do not renegotiate with that. You do not decide, I'm going to turn into this type of woman, that doesn't value this, but your heart is with it. Like, and you can tell when something needs to be a part of your agreement because your heart isn't aligned with it. Like, if you were to think about the agreement that you created for yourself, and you would tap in with self, like I said, do a body scan, and you check in with self, and you realize that you cannot let that agreement go. Like, you're going to have people who are going to challenge you on these things. Like, trust me, there's people that's going to challenge you on your agreements with self. That's literally what they do. But it's up to you to stand tall and stand firm in it. To stand on that foundation, that principle. Stop negotiating and stop reneging on yourself. Reneging on yourself will lead to unhappiness. It will lead to discontentment. It also will lead to you a disconnection with your intuition because you won't trust yourself. I meet women like this all the time who do not trust themselves because they went through an entire life being flexible and adapting to others so that they can be accepted. And I guarantee you, you will not like that type of life. I've never met a woman who does. All right, so y'all can, if we have some questions, because this is what I had to come and say this. Because my inner circle, y'all didn't get the complete exercise. Tomorrow's going to post in the group. And then there's extra instructions that you need to do with it. But I needed to give it to the entire community because I feel like this is something we all need to have. Like, all women need to have an agreement with themselves for each area of life. And you need to stand on that agreement. You have to stop reneging. Like, stop allowing someone else to control your life. Because that's what it is. When you allow yourself to take on that agreement, you release your control. You're letting someone, basically you're the epitome of get someone else to do it. But then when you do that, you're leaving up to someone if you're going to get married. You're leaving up to someone else what type of lifestyle you're going to live. You're leaving up to someone what type of money you're going to have. You're leaving up to someone what you value. This is the reason why you have to have your own agreement. The agreement that I have with myself is more important than I will ever have with anybody else. If that person comes into my field, into my world, and that they are in disagreement with my agreement, this means that they shouldn't be in my world. To me, it's just that simple. And I know I'm simplifying it because I know there's other factors. Love, family, children, life. But this is the reason why you have to stand tall and stand firm. Because you're literally reneging on the promises that you made to yourself. And this is the reason why it's the most important promise you're ever going to make. Like, I feel like that promise is more important than when you say I do, when you have kids, when you make money, what type of lifestyle, what type of relationship. Why? Because when you continue on this path of not keeping the promises that you made to yourself, you're going to sign yourself up for unhappiness. And not just unhappiness. It goes deeper than that. There's a disconnection with your intuition. Like, if you're one of these women who have problems making decisions, but you spent your entire life reneging on the promises that you made to yourself, sis, you got to go on a whole journey to reconnect with self and create your agreements. And I suggest you get started. There's not a better time than now. And you will be surprised when you make promises to yourself and create your agreements for yourself for the things that you value in your life. I guarantee you there are others. Don't think that you're only one that has some values. We out here. The reason why that a lot of us are not encountering these people is because we haven't made a firm decision with self. Like, why would I want to be in your world when you are not firm on the decision you made to yourself? Because making the promises to yourself are the most important promises you're ever going to make in life. So if you can't keep a promise to you, how the freak you going to keep a promise to me? And see, I recognize it as a person who keeps her promises to herself. Because the first agreement that you make with you is more important than any agreement that you make with anybody else. Anybody else. So you can already tell that when it comes down to it, I have a certain agreement with my integrity. I refuse a lot of y'all. Like, I'm going to tell y'all the truth. Even if it doesn't bring me no fans, even if it bring me no people that don't like me, or I never ever get the following or any numbers or anything like that, I never go viral, I'm still going to tell you the truth. Like, that's a promise to self. Like, I created agreements for myself for content creating. Because you have to have some type of promise or agreements with self so that you have something to stand on. Some type of foundation. I found that the more that you have that agreement and promise to self, then it's easier to recognize when you shouldn't do something. You shouldn't do it. Because see, all of us don't have that. All of us don't have that perfect family. Like, all of us don't have that 2-parent home and some people with integrity surrounding us. People that we can get advice from. All of us don't have that. Like, I know I'm blessed, and I know it's somewhat of a privilege too, especially the way the world is leaning towards that. I have that, but I know that having some type of agreement or promise to myself about my content creating will help me to be a better content creator. So if I do something that breaks that promise or that agreement that I have with myself, I'm going to hurt myself more than I hurt you all. And that's the reason why I created it too. It's accountability. So I'm accountable to myself about what I put out here. I'm accountable to myself about lying to you all. I'm accountable to myself about what type of content I put out. That's the reason why that's the reason why some of my content is behind paid walls. And that's for a reason. Because I have made a promise and agreement with myself that I will not continue to spur the flames of anger that a lot of women have. And yes, it's justified anger, but I'm not trying to spur that or keep that going. What I want to do is lean towards healing and moving forward and living our best life. That is what my goal is for my platform. So I'm not going to put certain content or certain things out there unless it's behind paid walls, because I know that the women who are behind the paid wall, they've made an agreement with themselves that they're going to heal by any means necessary. So I know that they can come, they're okay with the content that I'm going to put out there that's going to trigger them a little bit, or they're okay with that content that I'm going to put out there that's going to push them some more. Or they're okay with me just calling them out. And I know that until this feminine rage pass, a lot of women aren't going to be open to that. So, but you have to have an agreement in how you're going to conduct yourself, how you're going to live your life, what you accept in life, who you're going to be, what type of woman you desire to be. There has to be something. And usually the agreements are something that you have up here, but I'm going to encourage you to put it on paper, especially if you're new to this. Okay, if you're new to this, put it on paper. And then when you get to the end of your agreement, sign it. And look at it as though it's your contract. It's the contract of you. So if you put down the agreement that you're going to live your life in a certain manner, then baby, you're on the hook. Because when you decide not to go along with that agreement and keep that promise to yourself, you're hurting yourself more than you're hurting anyone else. And I'm glad that my grandma taught me that valuable lesson. Like, you have to realize that the things that you do in your life, you're not hurting anyone else. You're hurting yourself. And possibly if you have kids, you're hurting your children. But majority of the time, you're hurting you. Every time that you renege on a promise to yourself, you're hurting yourself. Every time that you accept something that is not a part of your agreement, you're hurting yourself. Every time you sacrifice your values, sacrifice who you are as a woman, you're hurting yourself. And you have to get out of this cycle of hurting yourself and moving forward. And I'm not one, and I've said this before, I'm not one for blame and shame. I don't believe in it. I think it has no place. I was taught as a young girl, like, once you have spent all that mental energy and time blaming yourself and feeling shame and guilt for what has happened and what cannot be changed, what have you done? Sis, what have you done? So you sitting over here blaming shame because you made a mistake? Everybody make a mistake. Guess what? I'll make one tomorrow. Like, everyone has done something, but ain't nobody perfect. The person that is perfect, they done went on to the heavens. So there's no such thing as perfection. You are never going to live up to that. Let it go. Let it go. This is the next step of my level up journey. I've started to think about boundaries and dream life. I have to write them down in agreement. Yes. Like, write it in agreement, especially if you're ready to honor it. Like, write it in agreement if you're ready to honor it. What I will tell you is this: do not create agreements with yourself, because these promises are the most important promises you're ever going to make. You know, you signed that contract to get a loan. That's not more important than the agreement that you made with yourself. You know, you agreed to be in this 5-year relationship and wait till he proposed. That's not more important than agreement to yourself. Why? Because every time you renege on the agreement or a promise that you made to yourself, you're losing a piece of yourself every single time. You're leading to yourself and not trusting yourself. And then you also lead to the land of confusion. I meet women like this all the time. And this is the issue. And they continue to have not made any agreements or promises to themselves. And it takes some time to get out of that cycle of adapting and being flexible and attaching to someone else's agreement because you haven't made your own, or you don't trust yourself to make some, or you feel like you make your bad decisions all the time, or you feel like that, hey, you've already screwed up, you can't save yourself. Let me tell you this. One of the things that my grandma taught me is that as long as you're alive, as long as your heart is beating, as long as there's air in your lungs, as long as your blood is flowing in your veins, as long as you have you have life in your body, you have the ability to change and up-level your life. It doesn't matter what age you are. You have the ability to create your agreements and create the promises that you to yourself. And you can start today. But the agreement I have with myself is more important than any agreement that I could ever have with anybody else. The agreement I have with myself supersedes anybody else's agreement. Because I am not going to let anyone in my world that's going to go against the agreements that I have with myself. Because I understand how valuable it is. Every time that I keep my promise, I become more self-confident. This is the reason why I became more self-confident, y'all. The more that I kept keeping the promises that I made myself. If you made a promise with yourself, you're going to lose 10 pounds. And what are you doing? You're already flacking on that agreement. You already reneging on the promises you made with self. So now you feel a little down. Now you don't trust yourself to actually complete or continue on in that journey because of it. This is the reason why I say the promises you make with yourself is more important than any promise, any agreement that you have with anybody else. Because that agreement, that promise that you make to yourself, it is literally the one that's going to make you more self-confident. You want to become a self-confident queen? You want to become a queen, right? Every woman wants that queen energy, where they walk in the room and own it. You do that by owning yourself first. You don't do that by just putting on a little makeup and put on a dress and put on some heels and just looking good and smelling good. You do that by keeping the promises with self first. If you promise yourself you would never go back to him because he is violent and he is disrespectful, why you going back? I'm speaking to you. Yeah, I am. Absolutely. Why you go back? You're breaking a promise to self. And when you break the promise to self, what happens is you trust yourself a little less. You reduce your self-confidence a little less. Everything that you do to promise yourself that you're going to promise, and you stick to your agreement with self, that you're going to be healthier, that you're going to be in this certain type of lifestyle, that you're going to be in a certain type of relationship, that you're going to read a couple more books, you're going to invest in yourself, you're going to take care of yourself, you're going to be in your feminine energy. Every promise that you do not keep with yourself leads to your own downfall. And if you want to become more self-confident, this is the way to do it. It may not seem like the easiest thing, okay? It may not seem like the easiest thing. I'm just going to have to tell you the truth, the way of it, the way to really become self-confident, to become a woman who walks tall, to become a woman who owns her ish. This is how you do it. Like all the rest of it that you hear on social media, this is the reason why you don't feel self-confident. It's because it's beyond makeup. Like, it's beyond having a little makeup on yourself, smelling good, having clothes on. And I had no problem with that. Girl, I wear makeup like the best of them. I don't have a problem with that. But I know the true meaning of being self-confident is keeping the promises that you have to yourself. Like, when you make yourself a promise, follow through. When you make yourself a promise, stand on it. Stop being noodleback. Stop falling prey to something because of the fact that you love. Yes, you love them. Do you know it's actually absolutely impossible to love someone and still honor your agreement with yourself? And guess what? It doesn't feel good in a moment, but after a while, you're going to praise yourself because you stood on your principles, you stood on your values, you stood on your agreement, and you didn't break it. So yes, you may feel bad that you had to disappoint someone, but you're going to feel good and grow in self-confidence because you stood on your own promises. The day that you have to stand up and say, hey, I'm not going to accept this because I promised myself that I would not. That is the day you will feel like you are a queen. That's the day you will feel like you're at your most self-confident. That's the day you're going to feel the most beautiful. The other things that you're told on social media, they're superficial. They're temporary. They may last for a short time, not a long time. But when you actually start standing on the promise that you have with you, top tier, chef's kiss. You will be self-confident and no one can tell you otherwise. Because guess what I've done throughout my entire life? I stood on my own agreement. The promise that I had with myself, I do not break them. And since I do not break them, and it's not because I'm superhuman, it's because sometimes I feel bad when I have to break them because I love that person. I love them. There's a part of me just like any other feminine energy woman. I want to do something for them to make them feel good. But if it compromises or it sacrifices the agreements and promises that I have myself, baby, I can't do it. I'm not showing up. Get somebody else to do it. Get somebody else to do it. I can't do it. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But I have to stand on the promises I made with myself because they're the most important promises you're ever going to have. They're the most important promises you're ever going to make to yourself. When you start breaking the promises and agreements that you have to yourself, baby, you're going to be unhappy. You're going to be unhappy. So when I come across so many videos talking about, breaking those important promises and agreements that you have to self to get a man, you're going to be unhappy. You're going to wake up one day and you're going to feel like you're an imposter in your own life. And you're going to feel like you sacrificed and you gave. And you gave so much and you didn't get anything in return. And since masculine energy really doesn't recognize sacrifice in feminine energy, they're going to look at you like, oh, there's something wrong with this one. And they're going to question everything about you. They're going to question everything about you. Because feminine energy doesn't recognize sacrifice. We're actually going to go in deeper conversation about that part in Energetically Feminine. So if you don't know, I'm hosting Energetically Feminine February 26th at 12 p.m. And if you can't be there, there's going to be a replay option also. So if you want to be a part of that live stream, you're definitely going to want to be in the room. It's limited seating because I'm also going to be doing masculine archetypes and matching. Basically, I'm going to tell you what type of man you qualify. And then we're going to go through and talk about how to increase your feminine energy so you can qualify for a different type of man. Because that's possible. And we're going to do it in an authentic way. We're going to do it in an authentic way where it still is a part of your agreement. Because when it comes down to it, I'm all about being authentic. It's still possible to love someone, however, to keep to your own agreements and leave if you have to. Yes, it is. It is. It's very much possible to keep your agreements and still not to have someone in your life. I've come across that because one of my agreements is family is super important to me. My husband is not just my husband. That man is my family. My kids are my family. This is my family. I'm not going to let someone come in my world and try to have me sacrifice my family. So since my family means so much to me, I've had to say, hey, my little girl has had this award show, so I can't go to brunch or I can't go to lunch because my family means more than anything to me. My husband needed me for something, and I had to say, hey, I can't do this right now because my family needs me, aka my husband needs me because he is my family. At this point, being married 23 years, that man is my family, okay? And so since this is an agreement, I cannot break that agreement with myself or that promise with myself, even if it means I may lose people along the way. The more that I stand on my agreements and the promise with myself, the more self-confident I have. So I've really gotten good at over the years saying, hey, guess what? I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm booked. I have a family engagement, or I have to do this. I mark things off my calendar, even on my one-on-ones, because it's a family time. So yes, did my family become before my business? Absolutely, it does. And a lot of people won't understand that, but I know that my children will remember these years. She will remember when I showed up for her. She'll remember when I'm there for her. She'll remember when she had a mom and that was there for that and participated in her life. So I'm not going to miss that just to run a business or to just make friends or to be out here when this is important to me. And this is a promise that I made to myself. And I have not violated that or reneged on it. And since I kept that, it made me more self-confident in standing on in my own beliefs and principles. Because the more that I said yes to me, the more that I kept my promises to myself, the more that I can stand on my principles and my values and what I believe in, the more that I have found my voice. Because not only do you become more self-confident, you find your voice. You learn how to speak up for yourself. Because guess what? You walk through life honoring your promises and agreements with yourself. So how can you not honor your voice by speaking up? By speaking up. I try to give real tips that you can use to become more self-confident. And yes, I know sometimes it don't seem like all of the tips are like something you can do today, but you can. This is what you can do today. All right. Let's say you can't attend my workshops. You don't have the money yet. Fine. I have tons of content on my YouTube that's available for free. I do a lot of trainings right there in the open on YouTube. You can start with what I just gave you today. That could be the very first thing that you do. You can go ahead and sit down and start working out your agreements and the promises that you want to make to yourself. Okay? And once you make those agreements and those promises, this is something that you cannot renege on. You cannot meet a man tomorrow and be like, he doesn't want to get married and he just want to see how it go. You cannot say, oh yeah, let's see how it go. No, baby. In your agreement for relationships, you said that you want to be married. You want to be a wife. And you want to be a traditional wife at that. So stand on that promise and the agreement that you made with yourself. So when you are sitting here talking to him and he's indicating that he wants to see how everything goes, baby, he ain't your man. Like, you don't prove to men who are marriage-like that they want to be married. A man that want to be married doesn't have to be persuaded to be married. He is already saying, when you ask him, you say, hey, what do you think about marriage? And he says, I don't think anything. Marriage is just a piece of paper. Deuces. Stand on your agreement and your promise itself. If he says, hey, I want to see how it go, stand on your promise and stand on your promises and agreement to self. See, we have to realize, let me tell you, marriage-minded men, they stand on that. They be like, hey, yeah, I want to be married. I mean, it's just that simple. There's nothing complicated about a man who says he want to be married. If you ask a man, do you want to be married? He say no, he don't want to be married. That's it. We don't walk around trying to persuade him to get married. That's beyond us. Okay, that's above us. We don't do that stuff. But I think this also goes back to, with the agreements and promises that you have for self. The agreement that I have with myself is more important than any agreement with anyone else. And if that means I have to take on that label that I love me more, baby, I love me more. I love me more. Because so yes, I'm going to stand on my promises. Yes, I'm going to stand on my agreements. And you want to know something else? That is one of the things that attracted my husband. Because I'm one of those people that when it comes to what I promise myself and what my agreements are, I'm going to stand on it 10 toes down. I'm going to stand on it when the ship is sinking. I'm going to stand on it when nobody else is in agreement. I'll be that girl. I'll be that a girl that's just not going to go along to get along. I'll be that girl that speak up and say what it is. I'm going to be that girl. And that's what he loved about me. He loved that I speak up for myself. He loved that when I say that this is what I want for myself and this is what I see for me, I'm not going to detour from that what I see for myself, because I understand the power of standing on your promises for yourself. It's so powerful. It's the most important promise that you're going to ever make anybody else. Because if you can't keep the promises to you, you're going to have a hard time keeping the promises to other people. Examples, please. What do we mean? I think I gave some. I think I did. You need me to clarify. Drop something down in the comment box. When you sit down and you write your agreement, hey, I'm going to be a feminine energy woman. I'm going to be a stay-at-home wife. I'm going to live a certain lifestyle. and then you go in and you meet men and you're dating currently, and these men come to you and it's like, hey, I want to offer you 50-50. And because he looks good, he smells good, and you attract him, you say, well, we can see how this go. That is reneging and breaking your promises in agreement with self. When you do this, every single time you lose a piece of yourself, it will lead to depression, it will lead to unhappiness, and it will lead to you not trusting yourself. So I want you to think of what I would say to begin. There are 2 rules to my agreement, okay? I'm going to give them to you again because we keep having people going in and out. Sit still. Sit still. 2 rules. No agreement should depend on someone else. Which means you're not allowed to stay in a relationship with a man and say, I can't get married. Even though you have an agreement that you want to be married and you value being a wife, but you with a man who doesn't, but you're creating an agreement, well, I can get married when my boyfriend wants to get married. That is a violation of the agreement. You cannot create an agreement that depends on someone else. Number 2, all agreements are under your control. So that means you cannot create agreements that are out of your control. The weather isn't under your control, right? The economy isn't under your control. So why would you create agreements based on those things? Don't violate those rules, and you'll be able to create agreements and promises and keep them. And you'll become more self-confident. You'll walk a little taller. You will speak a little clearer. Your voice will be activated. A lot of times women's voices are not activated because they spent their entire life breaking promises. Because someone told you all that life is about compromising. Life isn't about compromising. Life is about compliments. That's what it is. Life isn't about compromise is about compliments. It's about being with people who honor the agreements that you have with yourself. And a lot of times y'all have similar agreements. And being with people who are looking at life as a compliment. They want to make sure you win and they win. See, sacrifice is not in the language of feminine energy. It's not a such thing. And when I see women doing it, you're not operating your feminine energy when you sacrifice. And it's not authentic, because you already know instinctively there's a feeling that comes with sacrifice. And it's not normal for feminine energy women. It really would. Having a sacrifice really wakes you up because it's not natural for you. Now, if you're operating in your masculine energy, then it's going to be natural to you because of the fact that it's a daily thing. But feminine energy is not about sacrifice. We don't sacrifice, we compliment. Like, life is not about compromising or sacrificing. It's about compliment. So we always are figuring out, how do we both win? Other promises I need to make to myself, right? So example, health, fitness, boundaries. Wouldn't you go to say that somewhat agreements and promises could already be the boundaries? I think what we need to do, I want y'all to start simplifying things. Let's not complicate nothing. Let's make stuff very simple for ourselves. Go in, create the agreements and promises for yourself, and go for all areas of life: health, wealth, relationships, lifestyle, money, marriage. Create all agreements and promises across the board. Make sure you stick to the 2 rules that I gave you for creating those agreements and promises. First of all, here's another example I hear all the time. We can go through all the ones I hear all the time that is actually a negotiation, basically. When I say, I'm going to marry a man that's going to allow me to live in my feminine energy as a traditional wife, that is an agreement for my relationship, right? But when I decide to accept a man who is basically a feminine man, and he's going to push me to be more masculine, this means I have sacrificed my own agreement because I loved him, liked him, or attracted to him. That is what majority of women would do. Because it's natural for us to adapt or be flexible because it's in our nature. It's in our nature. The thing is, we have to recognize that, yes, it's in our nature to do these things for the ones that we love. But when you do these things to the ones you love and you sacrifice yourself for them, You negotiate yourself for them. You give yourself to them. You will be unhappy in the overall. You will be you won't be unhappy overall. Like, let's say here, I don't know if I want to say that one because that one's like really triggering. I'll leave that one for like a workshop content because this is a live stream with everybody in it. So I won't say that one here. But let's say if I say, hey, I'm gonna promise myself that I'm gonna save $50 a week, and I don't do it, I'm literally telling myself, hey, you can't keep your agreements, you can't keep your promise with self, so you are not gonna trust yourself, and at least you being unhappy. So you have to, when you go through and you create your agreements, if you go by the 2 rules that I gave you, you stay in that confinements, and you can add different areas that you find that you need some type of agreement or promise with yourself because you consistently break it. Do not make the promise or agreement unless you're ready to move forward. Like, I've heard women that say they can't heal until they get an apology. I think that's a great example because since my platform talks about healing all the time, right? I've come across women like, I can't heal. They're waiting on an apology for someone. See, that agreement is dependent on someone else. So it's the only way they can heal is someone that says, I'm sorry. But what if that person never says, I'm sorry? So this means you're stuck where you are because you didn't ever get a I'm sorry. See, this is the reason why what I'm doing with these agreements and promises, I'm giving your life back to you. I'm giving the control back to you. I'm putting it back in your hands. Take it back from everybody else. This is why you have the agreements and promises with self, because this means that you have a handle over your life. And when you come in, when people come in and they want you to negotiate or sacrifice your agreement, then you know that person isn't for you. That person isn't for you. So yes, it can be so many areas of life, and really it's going to be based on what you need as a woman. When you sit down and write your promises and agreement, look at it based on what you need from your perspective. In no way do I want you to create the agreements that I have with myself, because I'm me. I'm Braille. And there's only one person like me, and that's me. I want you to create your own. I want you to create your agreements and promises specific to you so that you can have your happiness, because I have mine and I just want you to have yours. So hopefully that was enough examples, because you can do this with any area of life, even when it comes down to being a mother. You can write down the promises that you have for yourself, the agreement that you want to make with yourself, to how you're going to be a mother, and how you're going to go about it. But also, when you make these rules, like I said, you got to make sure there's something that you can control now. So don't go in here and put down, my kid's going to be happy every day because I'm going to do all I can to make sure my kid happy. Baby, that's out of your control. Because let me tell you, as a mother myself, dealing with kids have their own worlds. They have their own worlds. And since they have their own worlds, their happiness is dependent on their world that they create for themselves. You can do your job and show up as a mother, but you have no control if this kid is happy or even successful. All you can do is put all you can into your kid and be the best mom you possibly can with what you have, and pray that this child is going to be okay. But you can't determine this kid going to be successful, happy, loved. You can't determine any of that. So don't go creating promises and agreements that's out of your control, because then you're going to be unhappy when you realize that that agreement is dependent on someone else coming through, or someone else meeting the mark, or someone else doing something. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. So if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to get ready to close out. I've been up here a good while. But the agreements that I have with myself is more important than any other agreement with anyone else. And that is the way I live my life. Hopefully that this has helped you, and that you can create your own agreements and promises for yourself, so that you'll have something that you can stand on. I want you to think as your agreement as your foundation. This is your foundation. This is what I have for myself. And if people come into my world and they don't agree or align with that agreement, and then maybe they shouldn't be in it. And the only reason I said maybe, because I don't know what's on your list. Because I know how we are. We instinctively, a lot of times, we're going to violate. Some of y'all might try to make your agreement and promises, and you're going to violate the rules. If you keep those 2 rules, you won't. But I know for being a teacher and being trained as one, that sometimes we tend to violate the rules because we think that we can create ones and we can still make it fit or make it work. Please save this live. Well, I'm going to put this live on YouTube because I think it's highly important. And even though, yes, this is the type of exercise and practices that I give to the inner circle, I think this is one that everyone needs right now. Because you have to stop walking around as though you can't get married, you can't be feminine, you can't heal, you can't have money. But that's not true. But the thing is, what is the promises and agreements that you have made with yourself? What have you promised yourself that you have violated or negated every single time? What have you negotiated, compromised, or decided that was not important? And I guarantee you, it is one of the things that you have promised or agreed with or that you made with yourself that you have violated. And this leads to being unhappy. It leads to you being happy. It leads to you not trusting yourself. And it's time for women to start trusting themselves. Because we have so many gifts that were given to us by God that we need to start utilizing so that we can live our best lives. Thanks a lot, love. I need this info today. I'm grateful for the work you do. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. I thank you all for showing up and being here all the way to the end because I know that this was a long one. And I will see you all on the next one. You all have a great day. Bye.